The 2.5-ton Chevrolet Deuce and a half. 10,000 pounds of cargo and was the backbone of the Red Ball Express that kept the Allies supplied after D-Day in World War II. The Korean War, often referred to as the Forgotten War, began on June 25, 1950, with the North Korean Army's invasion of South Korea. A coalition of South Korea, the United States, and other United Nations members defeated the invasion and advanced into North Korea. The coalition fought and defeated 2 Chinese offensives in the spring of 1951. Armistice negotiations began shortly after that defeat in July of 1951 until the armistice was signed 2 years later in 1953. Combat consisted of small attacks, raids, and patrolling. During this war, the United States deployed approximately 6.8 million military forces to the Korean Peninsula. Special thanks to our sponsor, Coinbase. The M151 kept rolling along as the lightweight, high-mobility general-purpose vehicle replacing the famed World War II Jeep back in 1961. Officially named the Military Utility Tactical Truck, or MUT, most servicemen generally referred to it as a Jeep. The vehicle spanned more than 40 years in 4 manufacturers and were everywhere that the Army was deployed. Another rolled by earlier, and at 2.5 tons, this deuce and a half, the M35A2 classic military transport truck, was a mainstay of the U.S. Army for decades, particularly during the Vietnam War and Operation Iraqi Freedom. The deuce and a half proved its value moving cargo, supplies, and soldiers. Its capabilities include up to 5,000 pounds off-road and 10,000 pounds on-road, making it ideal for moving just about anything. In the jungles of Vietnam, the U.S. Army faced a new kind of war. Helicopters became the new workhorses of battle, delivering troops, firepower, and supplies into some of the most unforgiving terrain on Earth. This is the U.S. Army in Vietnam, the era of air mobility, fierce firefights, and unwavering brotherhood. And over the music marching through, the roar of these legendary Army helicopters takes to the air. Flying overhead right now, they help define the Vietnam War. That staccato beat of the rotor blades was a welcome sound to many troops mired in combat. From transport and medevac to close air support and reconnaissance, they brought the fight to the front and pulled the wounded to safety. The OH-6 Cayuse scouted the terrain with unmatched agility. The AH-1 Cobra, also nicknamed the Snake, brought serious firepower. Its slim design, as you can see here, helped it survive and thrive in hostile environments to protect soldiers below. And the icon of the era, the UH-1 Huey, the first turbine-powered helicopter in service with the U.S. military. There was nothing the Huey couldn't do. General support, air assault, cargo transport, medic evacuation, and ground attack missions. The Cayuse, Cobra, and Huey, ladies and gentlemen, three iconic Army symbols in the sky. The First Cavalry Division Band, based out of Fort Cavazos, Texas, has played a vital role in U.S. military history. Since its origins back in 1855 as the band of the 2nd Cavalry, it has supported operations from the Civil War to Desert Storm. Over time, it's evolved into a powerful force, using music to strengthen bonds between soldiers and engage with communities. From World War II in Korea to the Vietnam War in Bosnia, the 1st Teen Band has enhanced morale and upheld the division's enduring legacy. Today, the band continues its mission using music to shape perceptions, foster trust, and promote national Army and division interests. Standing ready to serve, it remains an enduring symbol of the 1st Cavalry Division's legacy and commitment to duty. The band performs Hit the Leather and Ride, a march composed by Captain Robert Meredith Wilson. This piece reflects the cavalry's transition from horses to mechanized warfare, capturing the speed, the resilience, and the tradition of the division. From Fort Cavazos, Texas, everybody, the 1st Cavalry Division Band. The U.S. Army deployed large numbers of troops in support of the Vietnam War. The first contingent of U.S. Army advisors arrived in Vietnam in the late 1950s, and that quickly grew to a small team of around 100 soldiers, which then expanded to more than 600 over the next decade. As the war intensified, troops' numbers quickly grew as the war between the South Vietnamese government and the communist insurgents supported by North Vietnam intensified. By January 1969, more than 364,200 soldiers organized around 7 divisions and 20 separate combat brigades. The United States began withdrawing its forces in July of 1969, and the last Army combat unit left South Vietnam in August of '71. The last U.S. combat soldier came home March 1973, while a small number of non-combat personnel remained until April 1975. Representing the Vietnam War era is the 101st Airborne Division, based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. The unit is wearing replica Vietnam War uniforms, signifying the soldiers who served our nation during this time. Blistering heat, thick humidity, and unforgiving terrain demanded uniform innovation, and the Army, they delivered. New lightweight uniforms were constructed to move with the soldier. The M16 replaced the M1 Garand, calling for redesigned ammo gear and faster reloads in combat. Body armor got smarter, jackets and trousers got lighter, and field equipment was reimagined to meet the mission head-on. Gone were the heavy Mickey Mouse boots, replaced by canvas tropical combat boots that offered better grip, faster drying, and all-day endurance. Special thanks to our sponsor, Oracle. When Saddam Hussein's Iraq invaded Kuwait in August 1990, the U.S. Army deployed to Saudi Arabia to deter further Iraqi aggression in the region for what was known as Operation Desert Shield. By the fall, more than 750,000 troops comprising U.S. service members and coalition partners from more than 30 countries had assembled in the Saudi Arabian desert. In mid-January 1991, the U.S.-led coalition began Operation Desert Storm, which kicked off with an intensive air campaign designed to knock out key Iraqi infrastructure and weaken Iraqi forces. The ground offensive was launched in early 1991, where military forces overwhelmingly destroyed enemy tanks and vehicles. After only 100 hours of ground combat, coalition troops liberated Kuwait, and the Gulf War ended with Iraq's surrender. From Fort Riley, Kansas, this is the 1st Infantry Division, one of the Army's most storied divisions. Nicknamed the Big Red One because of the distinctive red on their unit patch, as the oldest continuously serving division in the U.S. Army, the unit has participated in every major operation since World War I, living up to its motto, no mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great, duty first. The 1st Infantry Division was originally established as the 1st Expeditionary Division in 1917 and spearheaded the American Expeditionary Forces in France during World War I. In World War II, the Fighting First stormed Omaha Beach on D-Day and liberated Nazi concentration camps. The highly decorated unit has had 37 members of the Big Red One awarded the Medal of Honor. In Washington, D.C., the 1st Division Monument stands in President's Park, memorializing those who died while serving in the 1st Infantry Division. Ladies and gentlemen, they are the Big Red One, the 1st Infantry Division. More military rolling stock. During Operation Desert Storm, the M2 Bradley fighting vehicle proved its value on the battlefield. It is fast, it is tough, and it is lethal. Named for General Omar Bradley, a leader from West Point's famed class of 1916, the Bradley was built to carry troops into combat with protection and power. Armed with a 25mm chain-driven cannon and twin-tube launched optically tacked wire-guided missiles, it played a critical role in clearing the way during the ground assault into Iraq. While the Paladin looks and sounds like a tank, it is technically a self-propelled howitzer and was first introduced back in the 1960s. Over the years, it's been upgraded to perform in versatile battlefields from Vietnam to the Soviet Union to Iraq. In the Gulf War, no division hit harder or moved faster than the 1st Armored. The 1st Armored Division, nicknamed Old Ironsides, is the oldest, most recognizable armored division in the United States Army. As part of the buildup for World War II, cavalry and reconnaissance units were brought together to form the 1st Armored Division in 1940. In the Gulf War, no division hit harder or moved faster than the 1st Armored. Old Ironsides really led the way. During Desert Storm, they engaged in some of the largest tank battles in Army history that were decisive victories, shattering enemy formations. Based in Fort Bliss, Texas, America's Tank Division is currently supporting missions in 20 countries across 5 continents. From World War II to today, Old Ironsides remains battle-proven and always ready. First used in Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, the M119 Howitzer brought precision firepower to the front lines. Lighter and more mobile than larger artillery, it was built for the infantry brigade, able to fire high into the air or directly at the target depending on the mission. Whether used in battery formation or as a standalone support weapon, the M119 delivered reliable, responsible fire when it mattered most. Still in service today, including on the front lines in Ukraine, it remains a trusted part of the Army's arsenal. Special thanks to our sponsor, UFC. On September 11, 2001, terrorists destroyed the World Trade Center in New York City and struck the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. using commercial airliners. In response, the U.S. launched the global war on terrorism. The U.S. would stop potential threats around the world and take the fight to terrorist groups and the nations that back them. The Army immediately deployed forces to Afghanistan to destroy Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda terrorist organization and depose his sponsors, the ruling Taliban. The 2003 President Bush expanded the war to Iraq. Soldiers and other armed services overthrew Iraq's dictator Saddam Hussein. The fight to stabilize Iraq and prevent terrorist groups from overthrowing its new government continues to this day. The campaign in Afghanistan lasted until 2021 when U.S. forces withdrew and the Taliban returned to power. Over the course of the two-decade conflict, over 2 million servicemen and women, less than 1% of the American population, deployed in support of the global war on terrorism. Most of those who served were members of the United States Army. The global war on terrorism saw the introduction of a range of new technologies on the battlefield. The 8-wheeled Stryker Armored Combat Vehicle is the first new military vehicle to enter service in the U.S. Army since the Abrams tank back in the 1980s. The vehicle was developed to fill a gap in the Army's inventory between a lighter infantry and heavy armored unit. The Stryker Armored Combat Vehicle enables the team to maneuver in close and urban terrain, plus provide protection in open terrain and transport infantry quickly to critical battlefield positions. The first Stryker vehicles were fielded back in 2002 with the 1st Stryker Brigade combat team deploying to Iraq in 2003. U.S. Army Rangers, predating the Revolutionary War, fought in the War of 1812 as part of the regular Army and patrolled the frontier from Ohio to western Illinois on horseback and by boat, with the likes of Daniel Boone and Abraham Lincoln in their ranks. After the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Rangers were called upon to lead the way in the global war on terrorism. As part of the U.S. Army Special Operations Command, the 75th Ranger Regiment, based out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, represents a lethal, agile, and flexible force capable of conducting many complex joint special operations missions. Today's Rangers Regiment is the Army's premier direct action raid force. It is always combat ready, mentally and physically tough, and prepared to fight our country's adversaries. The U.S. Army Special Operations Command is an elite group of individuals trained to lead and succeed in protecting the country from their threats. Composed of 5 units with unique specialties, Special Operations works in small tactical teams, taking on the most challenging and sensitive missions. Military legends to service members and civilians alike, they take on terrorists through quiet guerrilla war-style missions in foreign countries. Ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. Army's Special Forces. The Stryker Brigade Combat Team combines the capacity for rapid deployment with survivability and tactical mobility. Adaptability and continuous transformation to overcome our enemies is vital. Fighting an elusive enemy in distant places and at home requires new tools such as unmanned aerial vehicles for surveillance and the Blue Force Tracker to see real-time details of troop movements. The United States does not face the challenging international environment alone. Our network of allies and partners is an advantage that our adversaries can never hope to match. Over 80 nations have fought alongside the United States or assisted it during the global war on terrorism. The 10th Mountain Division's climb to glory began with its establishment as the 10th Light Division in July 1943, the only one of its size in the U.S. military to receive specialized training for fighting in mountainous conditions. After periods spent inactive as a training division and as a standard infantry division, the unit returned to its roots in 1985 when it regained its Mountain Division designation. In the 1990s, the division participated in numerous humanitarian and peacekeeping operations. During the war on terrorism, the 10th Mountain Division proved their mettle as light fighters through repeated deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. Now, since 2002, the 10th Mountain Division, based out of Fort Drum, New York, has been the most deployed regular Army unit. Its combat brigades have seen over 20 deployments to both Iraq and Afghanistan in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. To show America's military might, they have one purpose: to deter war and, if ordered, defeat the enemies of the United States of America. They are the 10th Mountain Division. Investments in cutting-edge systems, drone technology, and abilities strengthen the force, equipping soldiers with tools they need to protect the country and defend democracy. The Army has 8 Stryker Brigade combat teams, 6 in the active component and 2 in the National Guard. More than 2/3 of the 7,000 servicemen and women who sacrificed their lives fighting the global war on terrorism were part of one of the Army's 3 branches: active duty forces, the Army Reserve, and the Army National Guard. The Army is continuously transforming to deter aggression to ensure our adversaries cannot outrange or outpace us. This transformation is not just about adapting, it's about maintaining dominance, ensuring that America's Army remains unmatched in its speed, flexibility, and ability to support the nation's strategic priorities. Special thanks. Today, the U.S. Army's mission is to deploy, fight, and win our nation's wars. How? By securing ready, prompt, and sustained land dominance by Army forces across the full spectrum of the conflict as part of the Joint Force. Keeping the Army forces battle-ready and nimble makes transportation for the U.S. Army a very vital element. Spread across the parade today, numerous fighting vehicles, some designed for very specific functions and others for flexibility, but they all must be maintained. With over 200,000 trucks alone, wheeled vehicle mechanisms ensure that the fleet of vehicles are ready, and these mechanics get the job done. This convoy starts with the M777, a lightweight howitzer. These lightweight howitzers may not look particularly lightweight, but are made from titanium. They are 7,000 pounds lighter than their predecessor, the old M198. Used by the Army since 2005, the M777 is currently being used in Ukraine. Weighing only 4,700 pounds, the M119 Howitzer is smaller and is used by infantry brigades, particularly for air assault missions. It was first used in Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm in 1991 and is also seeing active use in Ukraine. The 7th Infantry Division, stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord, has been seeing continuous combat action ever since activation in World War I. From Europe to the Aleutian Islands, Japan, Korea, Afghanistan, and the Pacific, the Bayonet Division boasts a proud history of answering the call of its motto, "Trust in me," with resolute dedication. Sent to deployments and conflicts around the globe since it was founded, the division returned to Fort Lewis in 1971, its first time on American soil since 1934. The 7th Division, originally called the Hourglass Division due to their patch design, gained the nickname Bayonet Division during their deployment to Korea in June of 1950. At Incheon Landing and during the liberation of Seoul, they were credited with plunging the bayonet into the heart of the enemy, with 13 members of the division receiving the Medal of Honor. The 7th enables and sustains the combat readiness of 2 Stryker Brigade combat teams and a Combat Aviation Brigade. With the American soldier, the cornerstone of everything the Army does, we are continuously transforming. Army careers span the spectrum from attorneys to astronauts and mechanics to engineers. The Army's greatest asset is our people, the finest men and women our great nation has to offer, with a myriad of talents that make us stronger. Aside from its people, the Army's next greatest asset is its technology and equipment. Coming up next, these vehicles offer a glimpse of what the Army employs for readiness and battle. The portable howitzers and the portable Abrams tank were used extensively in the Gulf War, along with Bradley tanks and the infantry squad vehicle. The ISB provides enhanced tactical mobility of an infantry brigade combat team. This allows commanders greater freedom of movement and action. The ISB provides the warfighter with increased flexibility to ensure infantry units maintain momentum to achieve mission success. When duty calls, U.S. Army soldiers don't just answer, they lead. From Fort Bragg, witness a powerful demonstration of strength, purpose, and the unmatched capability of today's Army.
The Army has made me see my potential, and I feel like it's molded me into a better person.
I grew up in a very patriotic household. My grandfather, he served in World War II, and his brother, my uncle, served in Vietnam. I can do this. If they can do this, I can do this.
When I was born, my dad was still serving in the military, and him coming home in his uniform, I'm like, yeah, I want to do that.
Clear for takeoff.
My motivation, I think it follows in line. I think with what my family's done is kind of a sense of duty to serve our country and give back since it's given us so much.
I'm a very, let's say timid person, but definitely helped me become a more confident person.
Working with a group and my peers, it really shows how much working with a team can strengthen you.
All right, ready to go? Ready to go? I derive a lot of purpose from serving others. I think serving something bigger than myself gets me out of bed every day. If you power it up, keep on.
I definitely pushed myself further than I ever thought I could go.
I joined the military service because I want to deploy. That's my main goal, is deploy, deploy, deploy.
If we get the call, we have to go somewhere, we'll do what needs to be done. That's just the way we operate here.
This is one of the few jobs in the nation where we all take an oath to say, I'm willing to put my life on the line for you, and they're willing to put their life on the line for me.
This is what we train for. This is what I want to do. My team leaders and squad leaders, they know exactly what to do. Check equipment, check weapons, check ammo.
We're always ready to deploy within 18 hours and handle the mission at task. We jump so frequently so that our jump masters and paratroopers are ready to deploy.
Airborne personnel, stand up!
I'm very passionate about being a jump master. The paratroopers, they see you and, you know, they believe in you. I love to instill that confidence with my passion into those paratroopers. It's a rush. It's great.
Drop them clear for personnel drop.
This week we honor 250 years of valor and glory and triumph by the greatest fighting force ever to walk the face of the earth, the United States Army. For 2.5 centuries, our soldiers have marched into the raging fires of battle and obliterated America's enemies.
I love the Army. It is a great place to set yourself up for success, to prepare yourself for the future.
God bless you, God bless our soldiers, and God bless the U.S. Army.
Joint Base Elmendorf, Richardson, Alaska is the home to America's Arctic Angels, who execute expeditionary operations worldwide, conduct multi-domain operations in the Indo-Pacific Theater and the Arctic, and on order decisively defeat any adversary in extreme cold weather, mountainous and high-latitude environments through large-scale combat operations. The Angels are the Army's only Arctic division. Masters of Arctic warfare, the 11th serves worldwide in all climates. Established in November of 1942, the Angels of the 11th Airborne Division led the way in the Philippines during World War II and spearheaded an amphibious invasion of Luzon and distinguished themselves during the liberation of Manila. After periods spent inactive and stationed in Germany from 1963 to 65, the division operated as the 11th Air Assault Division with the mission of testing and refining the Army's helicopter-centric air mobility doctrine. Activated once again in June of 2022, they remain dedicated to defending America's interests throughout the Arctic, in Alaska, and beyond. The 11th Airborne Division, America's Arctic Angels. Requiring ongoing maintenance in the field and on base because nothing happens until something moves, wheeled vehicle mechanics supervise and perform maintenance, repair, and recovery operations on vehicles that serve the Army in a variety of mission-critical roles. Included in the array of mobile artillery such as Paladins and the Abrams tank is the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle known as the JLTV. It's highly adaptable, providing protected and sustained mobility for personnel and payloads. The JLTV is known for its off-road capability while providing armor against small arms and improvised explosive devices. The JLTV right there. The U.S. Army Reserve is inseparably linked to America's long-standing citizen soldier tradition. Organizationally, the Reserve's roots lie in the Medical Reserve Corps, established back in 1908 to provide a ready reserve of medical manpower. This organization was folded into the new offices of the Officers Reserve Corps in 1917. Reserve organizations furnished crucial manpower to the Army during World War I and were merged into 1920 into the Organization of Organized Reserve. During World War II, the Army activated 26 Organized Reserve Infantry divisions, and roughly a quarter of the Army's officer corps came from the reserves during the conflict. During the Korean War, the Organized Reserve Corps was reorganized and redesignated the U.S. Army Reserve. The Army Reserve has since served as a vital source of manpower for the force during times of need, gradually transitioning from a strategic force to an operational force in response to the pressures of the war on terrorism. In the 170,000 Army Reserve soldiers and 11,000 civilians serving their home communities, and when needed, they can quickly mobilize. The Army can't deploy, they can't fight or win without the Army Reserve. They are an important component of Army readiness. Let's have a big hand for the Army Reserve. Today and tomorrow's Army looks to increase safety and survivability, create efficiency, and streamline processes. The Striker is nicknamed the Sherman tank after Civil War General William Tecumseh Sherman. Actually, he was named by the British. With almost 50,000 produced during World War II, the Sherman tank was in active service until 1957. In World War II, the M16 half-track was a force to be reckoned with. It was a self-propelled anti-aircraft weapon with speed, firepower, and grit. Nicknamed the Meat Chopper, its quad 50 caliber mount could unleash 2,300 rounds a minute. Quite devastating. It served through Korea, Vietnam, and beyond, and remains in use in U.S. allies to this day. The M16 half-track brings the fight wherever it rolls. The U.S. Army Transportation Corps motto states, "Nothing happens until something moves." That was never more true than with this. Look at this, the 2.5-ton Chevrolet Deuce and a half. 10,000 pounds of cargo and was the backbone of the Red Ball Express that kept the Allies supplied after D-Day in World War II. The Korean War, often referred to as the Forgotten War, began on June 25, 1950, with the North Korean Army's invasion of South Korea. A coalition of South Korea, the United States, and